I'm Jesse Bennett with Driftless Land Stewardship. We're a small business. We manage nature preserves. We use a lot of different tools, prescribed fire, but one of the tools that we use is prescribed grazing. We have a number of goat herds. This year we have 5 goat herds that are actively on vegetation management projects. We've been in business for almost 20 years. We chose this variety of goat. These are classic meat breed goats. It's a mixture of Boer, Spanish, and Kiko goats. They're all, the Black Angus of the goat world. The big thing that differentiates this herd from goats that you'd buy at market is they're all highly experienced, or at least the older generations. We have a very mixed generation herd where we have some goats here that are, pushing 10 years old, and they have learned what their job entails. So they know the fence is electrified, don't touch the fence. They know that when we're herding them onto a trailer, it's not a disaster and panic situation. They know what to eat. When we first bought goats, we bought them from a feedlot, and they were used to eating corn and hay, and they didn't. We had read goats will eat all of these different types of vegetation, and they didn't know what to eat. And it took them some time to realize that all of these things were palatable and or desirable. And so this herd that we're using contains some older goats that are very experienced, and many of them are, they know their names, they act like dogs, so that allows us to handle them and communicate with them. There's a very real economy of scale when it comes to goats, and most of it is setting up the fence, setting up the water and the fencer, clearing the break to put the fence up, and transporting the goats to a site. And so it makes sense to maximize the number of goats in the fence that you spent the time to build. You wouldn't want to put many hours into building a fence and put one goat in there. So you want to put as many as possible. And what we do is we had kind of standardized our herd was a full trailer load, which was 60 to 80 goats. This year we have 5 working herds, and this herd will be here for the rest of the year. The Wisconsin DNR has some funds. We started this project last year. They have some funds to continue it. And what we're trying to accomplish is, more or less, we use them as a surrogate for fire. Prior to European settlement, this place burned very, very frequently. And any woody shrubs or trees that didn't have big, thick, mature, corky bark, especially species like oaks and shagbarks. With goats, we can kind of mimic fire. They will, they very much target the woody brush. They don't touch the big trees, much like firewood. And when this place is done, they're going to have, from 7 feet to ground layer, it's going to be, largely defoliated. And the results will, after you pull the goats out in a week or so, you'll drive by and, to the quick glance, if you're familiar with the look of prescribed fire, it's going to look like, oh, this place was just burned. It really does a nice job of knocking back the woody undergrowth and getting some sunlight to the ground layer, stimulating grasses. And if you wanted to do brush work here, it would be hand or mechanical. Some of the terrain is too steep for mechanical, so a large chunk of it would be hand work, which is extremely expensive. And so, you kind of have 2 options, handwork or prescribed grazing. The role of the fence is twofold. One, to keep the goats in. It's electrified. The goats are trained to it, so until they're starving, we wouldn't even have to have the fence on. They are afraid of it. It's largely to keep people out. We don't want people messing with the goats. But then it's also to keep predators out. There are a number of natural predators of goats. From coyotes are considered a predator of goats. I think they probably take a few. They are not a problem for us due to the number of goats we have. I think if you had 1 or 2 goats, they would pose a threat. But for us, we just really don't see much, if any, coyote predation. We have mountain lions, but no one I know has ever seen one. So they're not a major predator. Definitely dogs, especially in a high use area here where people have dogs. We're very much concerned with a dog taking off after the goat, so that's one thing the fence is going to be good at. I guess another predator of goats, well known, is bald eagles, but this isn't the habitat where they're going to be perching and after goats, hopefully. But we really don't worry about predation all that much other than dogs. Living next to this park absolutely changed my life, influenced me greatly, and we're very pleased to be hired to work here, but also we're fortunate enough to be able to donate some time and labor. Every year we donate a couple $1,000s or more of labor, and we're just glad to be able to continue.